All right, so back here with my dad again. If you hear any dogs barking, I've got a puppy in training, so she's in her kennel right now. My dad, Mike, Kathy, and this is for Veggie's Sake. So today we are doing sourdough, and I think we're doing sourdough bread 2 ways, right? Or is it just 1 way?
We talked about it a little bit here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where you want to go. We'll at least make what I call simple sourdough. We can add peppers, we can add other things, but basically it'll all just be one type of dough. I like to use a couple of books. One's called Mastering Bread by Vetri and McWilliams. It's because it's got a lot of sourdough recipes in it, but it's also got other ones that you probably like to do, but it's a split between sourdough and just bread in general. A lot of education in it, but I use it mostly from the sourdough point of view just because I like it. The other one is called the Sourdough Whisperer by Elaine Body, and it's got a tremendous amount of knowledge about sourdough, lots of recipes, and the thing I'll say up front is that because of the vegan low-fat diet that we're on, I make sure that I don't use many nuts. You can use sunflower seeds. People have used all kinds of nuts, chia seeds, etc. But I always watch the fat content, so I try to stay away from those, except for maybe just a little bit of flavoring. You always look at your fat per slice, etc. Sourdough that I make most of the time has 0 fat content. So it's one of those carbs that it's a slow carb, yet it's prebiotic because it is sourdough. It's good on your gut, your health. It's good for diabetics. And it's, though it takes a while, it's fun. It takes a bit to do it. It takes a little bit of work. But if you're around the house for 6 or 8 hours, it's actually very easy to do. Once you get it into the bantons, which we'll cover later, you can do the actual bread baking anytime you want, even delay it overnight if you like. So what I've got right now is I put my starter in a jar with a cloth, kind of a little top, a little spongy, stretchy top, and I made I'll keep my starter in the refrigerator 90% of the time. And what I do is I'll refresh the starter, put a heaping cup of flour in plus 2/3 of a cup of water, and that gets mixed. I leave it on the counter for 8 to 10 hours or overnight, and then I put it in the refrigerator. And at that step, starter doesn't have to be refreshed like so many recipes in the past have said. You keep it cold, and that'll stay in the fridge 6-7 days without having to pull it out and refresh it. But the key point is that when you're doing your refreshing of the starter, I'll go through that as we get through the first steps of the dough. So again, I'll have you put that one over on the table. We're going to be using Mastering Bread, and it's kind of an adapted deal of simple sourdough. They've got sourdough with nuts, einkorn, things like that. Maybe if we do things in the future, we can talk about how you modify your starter to do einkorn bread or rye and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And all it is taking some of the sourdough, putting it into a separate cup, bowl, or jar, and then adding the dough or the flour that you want to use or make. If I'm making a rye bread, I'll take the standard strong wheat flour and then go with some rye, put it in, and it becomes ready to now make sourdough bread. But today, again, I think what we could do is make simple sourdough bread and go from there. Any questions? Good. We'll forget that for right now.
I will have links for those books in the description.
Okay.
And of course, we'll get the recipe up too.
All right. So to start with, first thing I do is during the winter or cool times, I like to have the bread dough in a warm spot. So I turn on the oven. I just go ahead and turn it on. I watch it, and our oven tells me when I'm above 100 degrees as it's warming up. When I get to 100, 105 degrees, I turn the oven off. That way I can put the bread that we're going and following the steps through into the oven, and it stays very warm, warmer than the 70 degrees in the house, and maybe even cooler at different spots during the winter. So I kind of watch it until it's up to 110, turn it off, and then start making bread from there. And while that's warming up, the basic recipe is that you use bottled water. Now, people have made sourdough with tap water, but tap water with chlorine in it tends to slow the reaction down or even kill it. So when you're doing your refreshing on your starter, I always use a purified water, no chlorine, things like that, and it gets to the point where it just makes a more stable, predictable outcome. Watch here for a second. Okay, now it's at 103 degrees. I'm going to just turn the oven off. Now, what I kind of do is I bring a jar of flour. I use unbleached flour. There's all sorts of flours that you can use. If you use whole wheat, you're going to have to add, about half and half anyway. Ratios that you end up learning how to make in the future. I'm going to give a little salt out here.
Now, I don't know what I'm doing with sourdough, which is why.
So again, the recipe is to use 5 2/3 cups of flour. I call that 6 cups. And 2 1/4 cups of water. And again, I use bottled water. 3/4 of a cup of ripe sourdough starter. And basically 2 2/3 teaspoons, in other words, about a tablespoon of salt, and a little bit less as you need to for possibly health concerns. So first thing is to just go ahead and start getting the flour out. Now the flour is, I use a 1/2 cup measure, and it goes down into the jar nicely. So the 1/2 cup, instead of 6 cups, I need 12 1/2 cups. So, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. If you use a little extra flour, or you use a little too much water, or you use a little extra starter, it's no problem. You just adjust. If it's too soft and sticky, you add a little more flour. If it's too dry and you can't absorb all of the flour that's in the bowl, you add just a dollop of water until you get a good, nice, strong loaf. Okay, and I use a little less than a tablespoon of salt. We're good to go on that. I come here and I do 3/4 cup of starter. Now the key point on the starter is that if you use too much starter, the bread makes a loaf just fine. It does not matter if you use too much. If you use too much, the loaf will be lower, flatter, more like a Middle Eastern loaf of bread that might come from that. If you use too little starter, the loaves sit more upright. They are a little harder to blend. So what I try to do is get a full 3/4 cup, and I try to get rid of a little extra. Again, if you use too much, the dough gets to be too spongy and is I like loaves that are kind of sitting up a little bit more round, and tend to do it. So there's basically 3/4 cup. One of the thing about sourdough is they say never use anything but stainless or plastic types of utensils. The reason is because if you use iron, it can kill the sourdough starter and stop the reaction. So you always want to do that. Now we're going to set this aside, and I'll show you the next step with that here in just a few minutes. So just to get it started, just kind of get it down in. Okay, and then we go with 2 1/4. 2 1/4, yeah. I've only made this about 100 times and I still watch the recipe.
And it's always good.
Okay.
I come home and I steal loaves. Take them home for me.
Yeah, this is beer and I never know where they go.
That's right.
Okay, there is 2 1/4 plus or minus. I'm not too worried about it because again, I can go ahead and adjust when we need to. Okay. Mixing it in just a little bit with a stainless knife. Okay. And then I'll wash my hands just a little bit and leave them wet. And if you leave it wet, they probably won't pick up quite as much dough that sticks to your hands. Just move the water. And when we get to going here, we're just kind of mixing a little bit. You'll watch the consistency start to change, and the consistency on the bread will change through the next 3 hours as we're doing 4 folds. And I'll show you what a 4 fold is in here in just a little bit. But as you can see right now, it's a real, what they call shaggy dough. And the more you knead it, the more you handle it with your hands, just twisting it in. I probably have my own way of kneading dough, and you probably have yours, etc. Sourdough is a very interesting bread. It's pretty forgiving. It takes time. People have told me they'd rather just use a regular yeast and be done. I just like the benefits of sourdough, and I also like the flavor. It goes well with just about any kind of meal, be it soup or vegan lasagna or vegan spaghetti, stuff like that.
You know.
But again, you'll see it's starting to absorb the water that we've got, and you start kind of kneading it until it starts turning into a sticky ball. Okay? When it gets to a certain point, I pick up a little flour off the bottom, roll it in, and just continue kneading. They say knead for anywhere from 2 to 5, 6 minutes. I don't worry about the time as much as I just look at the consistency of the dough as it's starting to blend in and make a consistent dough texture.
So what are some of the benefits of sourdough?
Good stuff. It's all good stuff.
All good stuff.
Benefits of sourdough is that because they're prebiotic, it goes into your system because the yeast in sourdough has already started to break down some of the wheat or some of the grains that you're using, whether it be wheat, rye, or whatever. It allows you to get it into your system. It's not a fast carb like you would be using with bleach flour and stuff like that, because the flour I'm using is either unbleached or mixture of, like I say, other doughs, einkorn or rye or stuff like that. So your system actually handles it easier, but it's better for blood sugar regulation and all the things that go with it. I try to make sure I use some recipes call for sugar. If I use sugar, I'll use an unprocessed or a lightly processed sugar like an agave or something like that. I stay away from crystalline sugar because it gives me sugar pops. It pops my blood sugar up, even though I'm not specifically in the diabetic realm anymore. I would imagine my pancreas is in decent shape, but not new. It's only 72 years old, so I haven't figured out why. So there you go. We're getting it in. It is starting to turn just a little bit dry, yet it's sticky. And we just keep folding until I'm kind of happy with the consistency. If it's not completely folded in, don't worry, because this over the next 3 hours we'll do a 4-fold every half hour, 30 minutes, for 3 hours. Then we're going to let it set in Bantons for 4 hours, and then you can either at room temperature, or in other words oven temperature, and then you can either leave it overnight in a fridge covered with plastic and a tea towel or something, and you're good to go. So we are about there.
It's looking nice.
It's still got a little dry in the middle, so keep kneading just a little bit. But like I say, if it's even a little dry still here and there, over the next 3 hours we'll be doing folds, 4 folds they're called, and we will end up with a very rubbery textured dough that's going to be more sticky than this.
He's
And
okay.
we're good to go.
Come here.
He's okay. He's okay.
No, he's not.
Okay.
He's not listening.
You're not listening? You're getting in trouble. Yes, you are. Yeah. Yeah. That's Scout. He's my parents' dog, and then I've got my little 12-week-old. She's downstairs. So they're being a little chaotic right now. They're still learning. Because he's what, 6 months old?
5.
He's just fine.
Just 5, yeah.
Yep. So, okay, I don't know if there's anything specific you need to know here about it. Again, I think I've pretty well explained it. When we get to the end of 3 hours, I put a timer on for 3 hours just so I know how many fourfolds are coming up. But then I'll time on my phone, timer, whatever the case. I will then go ahead and time every 30 minutes. Okay? So now, we got a nice, somewhat dry dough here right now. Easy to use. Like I say, you start with a little damp hands with the moisture, and then you're good to go. So we're going to leave that sit. Grab a tea towel.
So, oh yeah, no, I was gonna say you don't put any oil over it. Of course you don't put any oil.
There's
over
no
it.
oil on it.
Yeah,
Oil is illegal.
illegal.
That goes into the oven that's sitting there in about 100 degrees right now. Okay. Now, leave that there. I'm going to wash my hands here just a little bit. Okay. And after washing your hands about 10, 12 times today, you will be really clean by the end of the day. Okay. Now, let me grab my phone here and start timing.
So we're timing it for half an hour, you said?
We're going to set it for overall 3 hours, and that's time for the sourdough to start to work. Oops, let's see here. So we're going to time, I'm going to time it overall for 3 hours, and then I time it for 28 minutes, which gives me a ring to come back and do the next 4 folds. So I'm sitting at 28 minutes and 3 hours.
Nice.
Okay. Now, while we got that, the next thing we can cover is some recharging on our starter. This is sat out, like I say, overnight.
And that
I
was to
marked,
get it ready for the dough today.
For a dough today. I'll always start a starter or refresh the starter the day before or early in the morning, and then you can work at night, whatever you like. I then mark the level. I put on the date so that when I stick it in the fridge, I know when it has been made. I don't know if you can see that there, but the key point is it's a very gooey mixture. If it's bubbling, I make sure it's thick enough to see bubbles coming out. If you don't put enough flour in, it won't show the bubbles as much, and you'll think your starter has gone dead. So what they do is this. Again, a starter is done with equal, what I'll call molecular weights of flour and water. So 1 cup of, well, let's see, I don't even need that. 1 cup of flour is half a cup so far, and you'll notice that it's heaping. And a second one that's heaping. Wash that off. Okay. So now we've got the flour in there, and that's going to make what they call a shaggy dough. If you want to look up at information on how to do a starter, how to do this from scratch, the best place I've found is a place called Breadtopia, BREADTOPIA, breadtopia.com. And Breadtopia can send you via Amazon or however you like to get it. You can go to them directly. And you can get them to send you a starter. It will come as a moist, active starter. And you are going to want to make and do the starter as he shows you on several videos immediately. You don't want that to sit around for a day or two or a week, because the sealed bag that the sealed packet that he sends you is going to be dead within a day or two. You want to get it. They send it to you basically overnight. It's flagged, it's everything else, and you want to get the flour started, or the starter started with the flour. And the guy, he does just a really enjoyable job of showing you how to do starter, how to do different breads. He's got different bread recipes on the site, but the most advantage I've got from the site is doing the starter itself. I got my starter, started it that evening, and within 3 or 4 days, it was really, within 2 days it was already cooking, and then I put more flour and water in it to get it up to a viable size. That's about a half a bottle of starter, half a jar here. No science to that, it's just however much you like along or around. And you'll see it's kind of shaggy. It kind of comes off, it's clumpy, and it is going to sit on the counter tonight. If not 8 or 10 hours, leave it sit out all night, it's just fine. Then, unless you're going to use it right away, go ahead and stick it in the fridge, and it will be very good. He says he's had dough, and I've had dough sit in the fridge for a few weeks, and you figure it's done, it won't work, and you find out that it's got maybe a little yellowish skin over the top. Take the skin off, clean anything out that you want, and normally that starter will start right back up again. I clean out my starter jar, I don't know, once every month or so, because the mouth starts to cake up. Sourdough is able to handle this and not have to worry about becoming rancid or anything like that, because the sourdough itself, trying to remember the term they call it, but essentially it's an immune situation to bugs, etc. It's an immune situation to bugs. It can be, I think it was it, I'm not going to quote the term without remembering here specifically. But it doesn't hurt anything. Chip off the crust and clean up the jar once in a while. You're good to go. I've got a little marker that came with a kit I bought. It's got an eraser on one end and a pen inside, a little pen. You come here, they'll sell you some stickers that are on it. I get rid of the last print that I put on there, which happened to be yesterday. And I'll write, I'll put the level, I'll put a little hash mark for the level, and then I'll write 10/19. And now I can leave that sitting on the counter. This keeps any bugs, gnats, garbage from getting in there. And because it's kind of a canvas or a thick linen, it breathes. If you put plastic over this jar, you would kill the starter because it can't get fresh air. So I leave that like that and set it off to the side and head on to the next step. Okay.
All right. So here we are for the first pull, I think, on the bread, right?
Okay. Yep. I'll go to the oven here and pull out what now has been working on the bread for half an hour. And again, if you make your hand just a little bit moist and pull it out of the deal, the bowl, okay, what you got is it's starting to become a little bit rubbery, and you do what's called a four pull to get the dough stretched, get it aerated. It activates the yeast again, and you'll notice that you pull it just till it's kind of starting to break a little bit. Don't pull it apart. I pull it, drop it back in, and that's done for half an hour. You put it back with a cover, stick it in the oven, and set your timer again for 28 more minutes. And again, we'll do this 6 times over the period of 3 hours. We'll do 5 more pulls now. And as it goes, it's going to get stretchier, more rubbery, and you'll be able to tell it's ready to go into a Banton. We'll cover that then. So
All
that's
right.
it.
We'll see you on the next pull.
Okay. All right, we're getting ready to do the second 4 pull. And again, just little damp hands will help you get this. It won't stick to you. Pull it out, and you'll find out now that it's starting to sag a little bit. The dough is coming alive. It's being processed as it's being somewhat digested prebiotically by the yeast. And the sourdough is obviously starting to take it, so we pull it one direction, pull it the other. And again, I like to flip it with the fold down so that it kind of keeps extra dough together, no pockets. And that was pull number 2, which means we're 1 hour into a 3-hour set of pulls.
That sounds
See you in a
great.
half hour.
Yeah, see you in a half hour.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. Here we are getting ready to do the third 4-fold. Again, just pulled it out of the oven, which is just at, probably 80, 90 degrees right now. Just warm enough to keep this interested. And you pull it out, and again, now it's starting to get a little bit droopy, very soft. It doesn't tear apart as easy. You can see the backside. It's getting to have a little bit more coherence. We're about halfway through the 3 pull or 4 pulls, and we'll finish that up and progress from there. It goes back into the oven for another 30 minutes, and we go from there.
See you in another 30. All right, we're back for the 4th pull.
Okay, we just got it out of the oven again. Just damp your hands just a little bit. And again, it starts to get a little bit more pliable each time. And again, the 4 pull, one direction and the other direction. Little air, little stretch gets those little yeasty guys going again. And we cover it up, and 2 more pulls, and we'll be ready to Bantons and go for that. We'll set that up shortly.
All right, that sounds
Okay.
great.
Thank you.
All right, so where are we now?
We are on the 6th pull, which also means we are going to put it in Bantons, but this pull is a little bit different. What we'll do is we'll take the dough, which is, you can see, slightly getting bigger all the time, and we will cut it into 2. And
So using the water
2.
instead of flour?
So yeah, you just put a little bit of water on the counter, not enough to flood the place. And this time we'll just take the loaf. This is now 2 loaves of bread again. And we put it there. We take our cutter, which is just a straight edge, but it's not a knife blade, so you don't hurt your counter. But you eyeball it and cut it into 2. That is now done. Okay. So we got the loaves here. We've got the Bantons we're now going to get ready. And the Bantons are really just woven baskets. You put on the cover for the Banton like that. I've got 2 sizes. I normally cook the small loaf first because the heat is adjusting at that point. So you put your cover for the Banton on, get it up around the lip like that. Push it down in, and that's what you've got for, that's called a Banton. And if anybody is French, they can tell me whether I'm pronouncing that right or not. I haven't got a clue. I think it's called Banton. Okay. So now that's almost ready to put in the bread. I take some semolina flour, which is actually fairly coarse, a very coarse flour. And if and when I get it open, like that, it's just a yellow coarse flour, looks like cornmeal. Powder some in the bottom. That's coarse. And then you can use any flour you like. You don't have to use the semolina, but I think you'll see what I'm doing here in a sec. Then I take oat flour. You could take chickpea flour. You could take just regular flour. And I sprinkle some in on top of that. And what we're doing is we're lining the Banton so it does not stick to the raw dough. And a little bit there. And we go like this. Kind of shake it around. And now you've got a lined Banton, which will accept the dough, but it won't stick to the dough.
How's that look?
Now, as you can see, she's a beginner, and she's not
I
as
am.
good as I am.
That's true.
Nope, that's all right. All very good. Okay. Now we take the loaf that we cut in half. We do a 4-pull, so you see now we're doing a 4-pull with half the amount of the dough. That's the smooth side. that goes down. So the bottom of the loaf is here. The top of the loaf, when we get done to put it into the Dutch oven, will be there. Now this is going to sit for 4 hours and rise again in our oven that's probably still cooling, but it keeps it out of the cool air and drafts. Put it in there, do just a little bit of preliminary shaping. By the time we've done in 4 hours, it will have filled the Banton, and in both of these, it will go to the ends, rise just a little. Now what we're going to do, this is the, I don't know why they can't make Glad Wrap pull anymore, but they don't. Okay, see if I can pull it.
You can do it.
Go. Okay.
Start over
Okay.
both.
Put them both together. Okay, hold that in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now we're going to flip it over. The sticky side is down. And what we don't want it to do is stick to the bread loaf. So I'm just taking an oil spray, Pam, whatever, and just a quick spray, just like that. The bread's going to see a little bit of that, but not enough. It's considered zero fat with the amount I just sprayed. The reason for that is that as the loaves rise, they'll push up against the plastic. And if you don't spray them just a little with something that lubricates it, it will stick to the plastic and you'll spend quite a bit of time peeling them off. So now we're putting the towel back on it. The bread can still breathe. We put it back into the oven for 4 hours. Okay, when we get done, we'll be putting it into the Dutch oven. I've used round. I've got both round and and oval. We will line the Dutch oven when we get there. With parchment paper, 1 strip per loaf. We'll go through that.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we put it in, the Dutch oven will have been preheated to 475 degrees. We'll cook it 20 minutes with the lid on, 10 minutes without. I'm kind of just giving you a preview. And we will score the top of the loaf because as the loaf cooks, it's going to expand even more and it'll break open all ragged. So what you do is there are 2 types of cutters. This is the one I prefer because it's safer. These work, but they are kind of dangerous if they pop loose. And I've had them pop loose, so I don't use that anymore. So if you can make it work better than me, that's good. But this is the one I would find. This is made by, I don't know, a company called Pamazy, Pamazy or Pamazy, or who knows what it's really saying.
I'll find
but
the
that's
link.
just a preview for that. We're ready to go. We're going to wait 4 hours.
Wonderful. Can't wait till it's done.
Sounds good.
Thank you. There we go. All right. So now we've got the bread out of the oven after rising.
Yeah. We've let it really rise for 4 hours. And the small loaf now looks like that. And it should go into that. We've got the oven preheated to 475. And what we do now is get it back out of the oven. Long enough to prep the loaf, put it in. Slice the top. And we're ready to go. We've had the Dutch oven in there as well as it's preheating, extra 5-10 minutes. We roll the loaf over, and because we powdered it all up with semolina and the oat flour, we now come over here, take it on parchment paper, put it in the Dutch oven, and before you do anything else, you've got to slice it on top so that it rises without cracking and breaking all over. You can get as fancy as you like with the design. Sometimes I do lines. Maybe we'll do a football lace or something. Second one. But this is the small loaf, goes in for 20 minutes. Then at the 20-minute mark, we take the lid off, leave it in the oven so it stays hot. Where'd you go? There you go. And go from there. So right now we got 20 minutes to go. And that's it.
Wonderful.
All right. So now we just kind of continue here for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I do probably once a week, I make bread probably about once a week. And to use up a little extra starter, I'll do another loaf with it, or in this case, many times, I'll do a pizza dough. It's called sourdough focaccia pizza, and it takes, I leave it sit in the fridge overnight, and then for the afternoon meal the next day, we'll pull it out. It rises just like the standard sourdough, but it sits out overnight. You get up the next morning, put it in the fridge until you're ready to use it. So just as interesting stuff. This is in the Sourdough Whisperer. There's a whole bunch of smaller loaves, baguettes, rolls, stuff like that. Fun to experiment. Chickpea, berries you can put in, all sorts of stuff. So uses a little bit more, and it's kind of fun to experiment. So see you in 20 minutes.
Sounds good. Go.
Okay, we're at 20 minutes. We only slide the pan out, pull the lid, keep the pan in there so it stays hot for the second loaf. Now if you take a look at it here, that's how the loaf looks at 20 minutes. We're going to cook it the rest of the 9 or 10 minutes, however we like the looks, without the lid, starting now. So see you in 10 minutes. Come on.
There you go.
Okay, we've just taken it out after about 29 minutes, and it looks like about the right color. And what I do is I just reach in with a spatula on one end and a finger on the other and transfer it to here. So there's your finished first loaf. Okay.
That is looking pretty.
Then we take out the parchment paper. Some people reuse the parchment paper. I don't worry about it most of the time. So there's that. And we're going to go ahead now and put the pan back in to reheat back up to temp for about 8-10 minutes, something like that. And while we'll get the other loaf ready. So see you in about 10 minutes here. Okay, we're at the second loaf. There's what the first one looked like. Nice loaf. Very warm right now. We'll leave that set for probably a good hour at least. We've already flipped the Banton for the second one, and we lift. And again, because of the powder flour we put in there, We let those bantons dry out. I take some of the extra dust and just kind of wipe it to the ends. Takes off some of the extra. We pull out our pan, which has now been preheating again for 10 minutes. Pull the lid. Close the door. We take our loaf, gently lower it into the pan, and this time we cut down the middle, and we cut down the middle, and we cut down the side, and do one more cut on the side.
Time's up.
And we do one more cut here, and one cut there. And I don't know if you can get a good picture. It's whatever design you think of, and it will come out looking separated like that when it's done. We go back in, and again, first stage with the lid on is 20 minutes. Then we pull the last lid for the last 8, 9, 10, whatever we like the color to be. And see you in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, 20 minutes into the second loaf, it's ready to pull the lid. So this time we don't need a lid for a third loaf, so what we do is I just take that off and sit it up there. That's what the lid or the bread looks like at this point in time. We slide it back in for 8, 9, 10 minutes, whatever we like the color, and see you in 10 minutes. So,
Okay, so the last one out of the oven, and that's what it's looking like.
Okay.
Now, let's see here. Get in the
looking
shot.
like that. Again, we take it out. Turn off the oven. Lift it out. If you want to come over here. That's what that looks like.
Beautiful.
And the other one was this one's a little bigger. A little different shape.
Looks like a football.
So, yep. Okay, then what we do is we got to leave it cool for a good hour. We might be able to cut this one in another hour if you guys want to taste or look or whatever.
Yes. That sounds wonderful.
But that's what's going on.
All right. We'll see you in a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, so we got our bread done.
Very good. Okay, it's been about an hour, hour and a half since the smaller loaf was done. That's the larger. That's the older, by an hour, hour and a half, something like that, half hour. So we'll go ahead and cut. You want to cut or
Yeah,
no?
sure.
Okay.
Either way. From the edge there. Oh, that cuts nice.
Now the bread can be frozen. It'll keep in a Ziploc bag for a good 5-6 days, something on that order. Okay.
Cut a piece in half. All right.
Okay, and then you take that. There you go. Try
Yum.
that out as you like.
Yes. Try this piece first.
Okay. Nice fresh sourdough. right
I
out of the
love your
oven.
bread.
Very
good.
nice.
Nice crumb, nice texture. A little bit of piece of that.
Nice and chewy.
Mm-hmm.
Real moist on the inside, but firm.
Yeah.
Nice sourdough. Very good.
I don't think you could do better.
Bon
So-
appetit, I
Yeah,
guess.
bon
All right.
appetit.
There you go.
And if you like what you see, like, subscribe, we'll be here. And for veggie's sake, eat more veggies. Eat for your health.